You know what I should do? Spend 3 weeks leveling on a server where it only takes 1 hour to hit max. Hey, so I just hit 60 on Resolute mode, and I wanted more of you to try this challenge because the world is a little empty as it is outside the major cities. This challenge mode is pretty much like classic leveling, but much more fun because of the overpowered builds you can do. You can use the comment section below to find other people attempting this challenge, so all of you can level from 1 till 60. This video will contain 3 sections. In the first one I will explain what Resolute mode is and what the rewards are for completing it. The second section contains some advice, pretty much classic leveling advice. Finally, we will talk about tips that are tailored towards this Ascension server specifically. By the way, the next video will be a 100 subscriber special, which will contain all the clips I've saved of my Resolute mode run, with all the big dig pools and events of interest. I will share some tips specifically about the Warrior Rogue Thunderclap Fan of Knives build I ran with. So if you are interested, I will put a link to that video in this video and also in the description. Thank you so much for your support, and remember, they cannot root the Resolute. As we discussed in my 52 more tips for Project Ascension video, there are various leveling challenges you can participate in, which make the leveling experience much more difficult, but in turn offer some special rewards. Resolute mode is one of such challenge modes, where you gain 1 times experience only from all sources, making it very slow to reach max level. It's pretty much like playing on a classic server. Unlike the other challenge modes, such as Iron Man mode, you can die as many times as you want as a Resolute mode player. You can enter dungeons, and you used to be able to enter battlegrounds as well, but they disabled that recently due to twinks. For completing any challenge mode, you get a unique vanity mount as a reward that is shared on your account. The mount for Resolute mode is the Golden Vulpine Familiar, which is a fox mount that has angel wings when it jumps. In case you don't like how it looks, you can just sell the mount on the auction house. It's worth about 1600 gold, which means you can buy other cool mounts instead. Resolute mode is considered the hardest challenge mode, not because it's difficulty, but because it's length. Depending on your classic leveling experience, your journey to max level might take you 60 to 80 hours playtime, just playtime alone. Due to the length of the challenge, you are offered additional rewards compared to other challenges. You get a cache of items which contain some Soulbound Epic Bloodforged gear, some non-Bloodforged Epic gear, 2500 Ascension points, and some other resources. So how do you start Resolute mode, or challenge modes in general? You need to talk to Stony Tark, an NPC in the starter, who is either a dwarf or an orc, depending if you play the evil faction or the horde. Remember, you need to be level 1 to start the challenge. If you accidentally killed a pig and you reach level 2, you need to delete your character and comment "I'm a bad piggy" under this video. Also, don't forget that it's not enough to start the challenge at the NPC, but you also need to use the Resolute scroll in your backpack. If you get bored of Resolute mode halfway through, you can talk to the NPC again and drop the challenge. But you can do it! I believe in you. It gets easier after a while, just watch the rest of the video to see how. So even before we talk about the quirks of the Ascension server, you have to know that people who are classic veterans, especially alcoholics, are in favor here. Personally, I have leveled many characters in a classic era, more notably a Hunter Druid around 3 years ago on a private server, a Night Elf Rogue on classic, and more recently I leveled a Draenei Shaman, which was actually spec'd as restoration until level 60. As I said, you pretty much just have to level from 1 till 60 as you would on a classic server. So for instance, from level 30, you cannot just level in one zone. You will need to level in several zones such as Stranglethorn Vale, Hillspread, Thousand Needles if you're Horde, and maybe even Desolus just to reach level 40. I was hoping that I could cheat the system somehow by spamming dungeons or battlegrounds, but alas, it was to no avail. I am not kidding when I say that you should look up a classic WoW leveling guide. Even better, you should look up a TBC leveling guide. The open world is pretty much TBC without the Blood Elves or the Draenei. Now, unfortunately, Joanna put her leveling guide behind a paywall, which I consider to be one of the best leveling guides ever created. So I would recommend you to use Joanna's guide if you own it, nudge nudge, or just look for a PDF online. The Alar server of Ascension is a combination of Classic, TBC and Wrath. There are some skills from Wrath of the Lich King. You have the TBC additions such as better quest rewards, additional quest lines and new places such as the Goblin Town in Dustwallow Marsh. On the other hand, all the nerfed elite quests and NPCs are back to their old glory. To fight the NPCs in Stormguard or the Hinterland Trolls for instance, you will need to bring friends or have a big dick build because they are all elites. Just like in Classic, if you are not a tank, you will have to wait a lot of time to get into dungeon groups, and just like in Classic, it's only worth doing a dungeon only a single time and only if you have the dungeon quests. There is a dungeon finder tool, just like on retail, which teleports you to the dungeon. But before you ask, thank God people cannot dungeon boost. Finally, take advantage of the random daily dungeon quests from the command board in every major city. So there is a Questy installed by default on your Ascension client, but it's not as good as, for instance, the TBC Classic Questy, because it doesn't show available quests on your map. You have to have a little bit of game sense to know where some of the hidden quest chains are. Again, a very obvious advice or tip, but you should have at least one other character you can mail stuff to, so you don't have to slow down if you want to bank things. We will talk about the cheapest and best bags in the next section though. So I'm gonna be honest here and say that you should not do Resolute mode on your first character on Ascension. Go and play the game normally for a while, have fun, enjoy it, check out my 52 tips for Ascension video, and take some time to actually learn the game. The reason why I say this is because you can make your Resolute mode run so much easier if you have a high level main. It's actually also really fun to take your level 60 character and hunt for the items that you will send to your Resolute mode character. Here's a list of the items that I call crutches that have helped me on my journey. Riding from level 1, which costs around 15 gold, 16 slot traveler backpacks which cost around 5 gold each on the auction house, a book of artisans to level my professions on the go, a reborn book of Ascension to learn higher ranks of my abilities so I don't have to go back to Orgrimmar every 2 levels, a level 40 riding from the level 40 riding tome, which is about 5 to 600 gold on the auction house. But most importantly, I've had the absolute best rare weapons every 10 levels, which I bought from the PvP vendor for honor. I've had really good gear saved up. I constantly had all 17 random enchants on my character, including the legendary enchant Soul of the Warden, which gave me Fan of Knives, and also Crackling Thunder, which increased the power of my Thunderclap for AoE farming. If you are a little further into the game than I was, you can also send 4 skill cards to your leveling character, 2 normal and 2 golden. Levels 8 and 9 are harder than 10 or 11, because at that point all the global buffs that people pay for apply to you as well. With one buff you deal 25% more damage and get 50% more XP from monster kills, though I don't know if this applies to Resolute mode. Don't forget that you move twice as fast in water than level 40 mounts. Use the water for transportation, you fucking alligator. So I was a dumbass and I didn't enchant level 5 greens to make my journey easier from level 5 to 20. Don't forget that you can also buy the Eon sandals from Stormwind, which are green boots that can be enchanted and worn from level 1. I've had the absolute best rare gear, weapons and full enchants from level 20. My level 20 gear provided the biggest stat differences to my character. Some pieces I've used all the way till max, so it's worth investing in those honor accessories. Also take your max level character and run down Dead Mines and Wailing Caverns, so you don't have to buy those items from the auction house. Buy the PvP weapons every 10 levels from level 18. Buy something ranged and also the rings just to have more enchants on your character. Get the level 15 PvP trinket and the level 20 honor trinket as well. In total you can have 17 pieces of gear, which means 17 enchantments. Don't bother spending 25 orbs on legendary enchants. Simply buy a PvP trinket from the auction house with the legendary enchant already on it. So there is a good formula as to what gear should receive the legendary and epic and then the rare enchants. Because you won't be upgrading these for a very long time, I recommend putting the legendary enchant and the free epic enchants on your trinkets and rings. On something like your weapons, which you should be swapping out at least every 10 levels, put only rare enchants. This is how my enchant distribution looked like. By the way, I wanted to buff Rend at the very beginning because I thought it would be good. So I went with In for the Kill epic enchant, but I don't think it's that great. Professions are surprisingly easy to level. You get more resources anyways, but you get free skill points and experience for every gather and every craft. I picked up the normal kind of enchanting, but believe it or not, I sold 90% of the gear anyways, because there was just so many green items that dropped from mobs, even on low risk mode. First aid is borderline broken as well. A lot of early flight paths are already unlocked, but you can also buy a Feather of Azeroth, which is shared on your account and unlocks all the flight paths. You can also buy Stones of Retreat, which are essentially separate 15-minute cooldown Hearthstones to Orgrimmar and Stormwind. On Resolute mode, abilities such as Teleport Moonglade, Portals, Astral Recall are actually good. When it comes to talents, take advantage of the on-kill talents. Just press N and in the search simply for the word experience, and you will get the talents that activate on every single kill on an NPC. Some of them restore mana, others restore health, etc. There are also talents that improve your hit rating, which are pretty nice, and some talents even save you from a dying hit. I don't know if this is a bug or not, but unlike on Classic, the talent Anger Management generates maximum rage even outside of combat. Let me emphasize how broken this is. Outside of extremely long fights, I've had more rage than I knew what to spend on. 10 out of 10 would rage again. The further down you go a talent tree, the better the talents become. Unlearn some early talents with scrolls of unlearning to free up some talent points later on your journey. If there is an elite you have to kill in the middle of a cave, for instance, and you don't want to deal with the other 500 elites around it, you can go in, die nearby, spawn next to him, kill him, and then get the hell out. Spawning in and not moving does not aggro the mobs. Now, there are XP hotspots in every zone. You cannot see them on the map, but when you spawn in, the chat should say what part of the zone it is in. When you enter that zone, there will be smoke around your character and a buff will also appear. Now, unfortunately, you won't gain more experience from these, but sometimes if there are a bunch of mobs grouped up and you are doing an AoE build, it might be more effective to AoE grind than to quest. Some quest rewards are extremely broken, because sometimes you can use those items at an earlier level. Keep those items for your leveling items database, for your future characters and your future runs. If you get bored after level 50, you can find instant dungeon groups as a tank, and it's also pretty fast as a healer. For completing random dungeon runs, you get experience, enchanting resources and 10 gold. For doing the first random dungeon of the day, you get 20 gold and even more stuff. You can actually become kind of like a mercenary as a tank, which is pretty cool. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are interested in more, press the like button and subscribe. You can also check out my warrior rogue Resolute mode clips in the next video, where I will be live commentating. Take care everyone, level together, and I hope I will see you riding on your cool fox mount.
What brings you to visit lonely old one Sam?